Story 1. The Doll in Apartment 6C. She opened her eyes to the sound of something breathing. It wasn't loud, it wasn't even deep, but it was close, too close. Quick, shallow puffs of air just near her cheek, the kind of sound you can't mistake when it's that close to your face in total darkness. Kara Langley lay frozen in bed, staring into nothing. The room was pitch black. No soft glow from the hallway, no amber LED on the charger, no blue light from the cable box. Nothing. She reached instinctively toward her nightstand, hand groping in the dark. Her fingers found only the edge of the table. Her phone wasn't there. The breath came again, a little faster this time. She could hear it, right above her, not overhead, not in the ceiling. Right there, hovering just inches from her face. Her heart started hammering in her chest. She held her breath, not daring to move. She waited for it to stop, to vanish, to be a dream. Then came the smell. At first it was faint, sweet, almost pleasant, like baby powder. But underneath it, something sour crept in, damp, like wet fabric left to rot in a sealed box. It thickened in the air, choking and clinging to the inside of her nose. Kara's hand trembled as she slid it beneath the blanket toward the edge of the mattress, trying to find the floor, to escape. But before she could move further, her hand brushed against something soft, not the mattress, not the blanket, something yielding, almost fuzzy, something that moved. She yanked her arm back, heart slamming against her ribcage. The air shifted around her. The breath stopped. For 3 long seconds there was nothing. Then giggle, high-pitched, childlike, but wrong, too slow, like a recording that had warped with age. It came from just above her pillow. Kara screamed. She leapt from the bed, bare, feet thudding against the cold hardwood floor, arms outstretched in the dark. She stumbled, nearly tripping over the rug in the hallway, slamming into the wall as she reached for the front door. It was locked. She always locked it. Her fingers fumbled with the deadbolt, heart beating too loudly in her ears. She took her open and fled into the corridor, barefoot in her t-shirt and underwear, gasping for air. The building's hallway light flickered as she leaned against the cold wall, trying to steady her breath. Everything felt surreal. Her muscles trembled with adrenaline. The sound of her scream still rang in her ears. Somewhere behind her, the door to apartment 6C creaked, not open, just moved, as if someone had gently touched it from inside. She backed away from it slowly, then turned and ran down the stairs, skipping steps 2 at a time. She didn't stop until she reached the lobby, where she collapsed onto the floor beside the mailboxes, knees pulled tight to her chest, eyes fixed on the stairwell. The night manager found her there 10 minutes later. "Kara? Jesus, are you all right?" She looked up. Mr. Dawson, the building manager, a gray-haired man in a Chicago Bears sweatshirt, stood over her holding a flashlight and a coat. He looked confused and concerned. I woke up, and it was breathing next to me," Kara whispered. "I swear to God someone was in my bed." Dawson's brow furrowed. "Let's get you wrapped up," he said gently, draping the coat over her shoulders. "Did you see anyone?" "No, just felt it, heard it, smelled it. It laughed at me." He paused, flashlight beam jittering slightly. "You sure it wasn't a nightmare?" "No," she said quickly. "I've never had a nightmare like that. It was real. Something touched my hand. It was real." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right. I'm calling the cops." The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 officers. One stayed downstairs, with Kara trying to calm her down. The other went upstairs with Dawson to investigate. The door to 6C was still locked from the inside. Officer Morales asked if Kara had a spare key. She shook her head. He radioed the station, then asked for permission to break the lock. Once they forced the door open, the officer stepped cautiously into the apartment. Kara followed slowly, wrapped in a blanket now, barefoot and still shaking. Everything inside was as she had left it. No overturned furniture, no signs of forced entry. Her purse was untouched on the counter. The windows were still locked. The bathroom light was still on. She always left it that way at night. Her phone was sitting neatly on the nightstand, right where she thought it had been, but something wasn't right. At the foot of the bed sat a small object, something that hadn't been there when she went to sleep. A doll. Porcelain, old, about 12 inches tall. Pale white face with painted red lips chipped at the cheek. Its dress was yellowed with age, the lace frayed. Tiny glass eyes stared straight ahead, and worst of all, it was smiling. "I don't own any dolls," Kara whispered. Morales turned to her. "Are you absolutely sure?" "Dead sure." He crouched and picked up the doll using a tissue, examining it carefully. "No identifying marks. Looks antique." Kara stared at it, breath shallow. She didn't recognize it, had never seen it before in her life, but somehow it felt familiar, as if she had seen it once, a long time ago, in a place she didn't want to remember. "Who would bring that into your apartment?" Dawson muttered. The door was locked. For God's sake," Kara shook her head slowly. "It's not possible." Morales made a note. "There's no sign of forced entry. Locks look untouched. No footprints. It's like no one came in at all." "But something was here," Kara said firmly. "I felt it. I heard it breathe. It laughed at me." The officer didn't respond. She didn't go back to the apartment that night. Instead, she checked into a motel down the block, paid cash, left the TV on all night, but she didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard it again. That breath near her face, that awful giggle, and the smell, that sickly mix of sweetness and mold. By morning, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her coffee. She returned to the apartment the next afternoon with Dawson. He offered to come in with her, but she shook her head. It felt like something she had to face alone. The apartment was clean, still, quiet, no sign of the doll. She checked every room, every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. The doll was gone, and yet the smell was still there, subtle, barely noticeable now, but real. She packed a bag and left again. That evening, her upstairs neighbor knocked on the motel room door. Mrs. Macaulay, a kind, wrinkled woman with cloudy eyes and a German shepherd named Rufus, looked pale. "I hope I'm not intruding, dear," she said softly. "But I heard something last night, in your apartment." Kara swallowed. "What did you hear?" "Laughing," she said. "A child's laugh, around 2 or 3 a.m. It went on for quite a while." Then silence. "There were no children in there," Kara whispered. "I know," Mrs. Macaulay said. "That's why I called the manager, but he didn't answer, and by the time I got my robe on to check, the lights were out." Kara felt her skin go cold. "Mrs. Macaulay, has anyone died in that apartment?" The old woman hesitated. "I don't like to gossip, dear, but before you moved in, there was a woman who lived there. Sarah Jensen. Young, sweet. She had a daughter." "What happened?" "She jumped from the balcony. They never found the little girl." Kara's blood turned to ice. "She just vanished?" she asked. Mrs. Macaulay nodded. "Police searched for weeks, but some said she wasn't real, said Sarah made her up. Imaginary friend, maybe. Or a ghost." Kara leaned against the doorframe, lightheaded. Did Sarah ever talk about a doll?" The old woman squinted. "Yes. She said it was her daughter's favorite, kept calling it Minnie. Said the girl used to talk to it, sleep with it. One day she said the doll started talking back." Kara's breath hitched. "Do you know what it looked like? I never saw it. But I remember Sarah said one thing, said the doll always smiled, said it never stopped smiling." Later that night, Kara returned to the apartment one last time. She didn't go inside. She just stood at the door, heart pounding, the key in her hand. The hallway light flickered again, and then she heard it, just faintly behind the door. That same breath. Quick, shallow, right at the other side, followed by a tiny voice. "Wanna play?" Kara dropped the key. The doll wasn't alone. Kara didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. She kept the motel lights on. She kept the curtains open. She didn't blink unless she had to. And when her eyelids got heavy, she would hear it again. It'd faint just under the hum of the TV, that breath near her face, or worse, the laugh, a whispery giggle that didn't belong in the waking world. Not from a toy, not from a child, not from anything that should exist, but the sound that kept her heart in her throat, the one that broke something inside her, was the voice. It only spoke once. "Wanna play?" She heard it just before the key dropped from her hand. Kara hadn't gone back to apartment 6C since, and now, 3 days later, she sat in a quiet booth at a dusty diner 5 blocks away, sipping burnt coffee and staring at her trembling fingers. Across from her sat Melanie Costa, true crime blogger, former journalism major, and the only person who hadn't told Kara she was imagining things. Melanie had a sharp jawline, darker circles under her eyes than Kara, and a long history of chasing the kind of stories people don't talk about in polite company. Stories with missing pages, whispered rumors, obsession, death. "I looked into your building," Melanie said, pushing a battered laptop closer to Kara. "Not just recent stuff. I mean all the way back. Guess how many 911 calls have come out of 6C in the last 20 years? Kara stared. "How many?" 11. 6 domestic disturbances, 2 unexplained injuries, 1 suicide attempt, 1 missing person. That was the kid you mentioned, and she paused, tapping her screen. 1 call about movement in the walls from 1998. No charges. Caller was never identified. Jesus. Melanie leaned in. And it gets worse. 3 tenants over the last 15 years filed written requests to move within 1 month of moving into 6C. One said she couldn't sleep because of the child's voice in the vents. Another said her cat kept bringing her gifts from the closet. Bones. Teeth. The building manager at the time dismissed it. Kara felt her mouth go dry. Why didn't I hear any of this before I moved in? They cleaned the listing, Melanie said. Scrubbed it online. That apartment's been flipped and sold so many times, it's just another address in a long chain of paper. Nothing sticks. But the people who've lived there, none of them lasted. Kara stared at the table. Her hand brushed her phone, and she recoiled. Last night it had rung at 2:14 a.m. No caller ID, just static on the line, and something that might have been whispering, buried beneath the noise. I didn't believe in any of this, Kara said, quietly. Until the doll. Until I felt it. Melanie hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled something out. A photo. It was black and white, a little torn at the corners. It showed a girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting on a porch. Step. She had her hair in 2 braids, and in her lap she clutched a doll, pale, cracked, and smiling. That's Sarah Jensen's daughter, Melanie said, the one who went missing. I got it from an old neighbor. Apparently Sarah used to carry that picture around and show people. Beg them to believe the girl was real. Kara felt her blood run cold. That's the same doll, she whispered. That's Minnie. Melanie nodded. And she wasn't imaginary, Kara. I don't think Sarah made her up. They went back to the apartment just before sunset. Kara hadn't stepped inside since the night the voice whispered through the door. She hesitated before unlocking it, key trembling in her hand. Ready? Melanie asked. No, Kara said, but let's go anyway. The smell hit them first. It wasn't strong anymore, but it was still there, sweet, damp, and wrong. Kara stepped inside slowly, scanning the room. Nothing moved, no sound, no breath, no doll. Melanie walked through the small kitchen, opening drawers and checking cabinets. If it's hiding in here, she muttered, I'm burning the place down." They checked the bedroom together, still clean. No doll. But when Melanie opened the closet door, Kara flinched. The closet was empty, except for a small red crayon lying on the floor. It hadn't been there before. Melanie crouched and picked it up, turning it over in her hand. "It's broken," she murmured. "Look." One end of the crayon had teeth marks. That night, Kara couldn't take it anymore. She sat on her bed, surrounded by open books, cold coffee, and every light in the apartment turned on. She hadn't planned to stay, but something kept pulling her back. That crayon had belonged to a child, a real one, and Kara couldn't stop thinking about the little girl in the photo. No one believed Sarah. They said the daughter was imaginary, a hallucination brought on by trauma. But Sarah had carried that photo everywhere, like a woman trying to prove her child hadn't just vanished into thin air. What if she hadn't? What if the doll hadn't been alone? At 2:22 a.m., Kara woke with a jolt, not from a sound, not from a dream, from a smell. Baby powder and rot. She looked around. All the lights were still on. Nothing seemed disturbed. But the air felt wrong, heavy, electric. Then she heard it, tap, tap, tap from inside the wall. She froze. Tap, tap, tap. Then a scratch, soft, slow, deliberate, like tiny fingers dragging across the drywall. She pressed her ear against the wall, held her breath. From the other side came a voice, muffled, quiet, childlike. "Don't leave me in the dark." Kara staggered back, heart racing. There was something in the walls. She grabbed her phone, turned on the recorder, and held it near the spot. The sound had stopped. She waited. Nothing. She played back the recording. Static. Then faint breathing. Then, just barely as a whisper, "So behind you." Kara spun around. The room was empty, but the closet door was open now, just an inch. She didn't sleep that night. She left the apartment just before sunrise and sat outside in her car, engine off, windows cracked, just breathing, just thinking. She remembered something Mrs. Macaulay had said, that people didn't believe the girl was real, that they thought Sarah had imagined her. Maybe Sarah had. Maybe grief had broken something in her, but the picture existed, and the doll. It had left marks. She drove to the public library, scanned through old police reports, tenant logs, incident files, and then she found it, March 2nd, 2002, emergency call from apartment 6C. Caller, Sarah Jensen. She reported a child missing. No record of the child's birth. No medical file. No family confirmation. Social services dismissed it as a psychiatric episode. Case closed. But handwritten on the back of the incident summary were 3 words. She wasn't alone. No name. No signature. Just that. Kara slammed the book shut, heart racing. Whatever had happened in that apartment, it wasn't over. And maybe it was never about the doll. That evening, Kara returned to the apartment. Alone, she locked the door behind her, sat on the floor, and waited. The air grew colder, the smell returned, and from the bedroom, a sound, humming, a child's voice, low, sweet, out of tune. She stood and stepped toward the hall, feet bare against the hardwood. The closer she got, the clearer the tune became. It was a lullaby, but the voice trembled, like it was trying not to cry. Kara stepped into the bedroom. The lights flickered, then died. Total darkness. She fumbled for her phone, turned on the flashlight, and saw it. There, in the middle of the bed, sat the doll, smiling, still, and beside it, a hand, small, pale, barely visible in the beam of light, resting beside the doll's porcelain shoe. Then it moved. The fingers twitched, curled. Kara gasped. The bed creaked, and the whisper came again, louder this time. "She won't let me go." She was trapped in the walls. The hand was gone. One blink, just one. and it vanished. Kara's flashlight flickered again, and the bed was empty. The doll sat upright as before, her glassy eyes catching the light, smiling like she always had, but the small, pale hand, gone. Kara stepped back slowly, keeping the beam of light trained on the bed. Her breath fogged in the air, though the heater was on. The room was freezing, silent, watching, and then a giggle. From inside the closet, Kara bolted. She didn't even grab her keys, just ran. Down the hallway, down the stairs, out the building. She didn't stop until she was inside her. Car with the doors locked, hands shaking so badly she could barely put the key in the ignition. She wasn't just seeing things anymore. She wasn't alone in that apartment. The next day, Melanie showed up with a box of printouts. "I've been digging through city records," she said, eyes hollow from lack of sleep. "Look," Kara hesitated. "If this is going to make me want to set the apartment on fire, I'm not sure I can handle it." Melanie gave a grim smile and handed her a paper rental history, apartment 6C. Sarah Jensen moved in alone in 2001. She listed no dependents, just her. Kara frowned. "So, no child?" "That's the thing." A month after she moved in, a neighbor reported hearing a baby crying in her unit multiple times, but when police followed up, Sarah told them there was no baby. Kara felt her throat tighten. "But," Melanie continued, "there's more. The floor plans of the building, the original ones, show a small service crawl space between apartments 6B and 6C, narrow enough to be hidden behind drywall, not even accessible from most units. You think something's inside it?" Melanie nodded. "If a child ever was hidden there, they might have never been found." Kara's stomach turned. "What if Sarah?" she whispered. "What if she didn't just imagine her daughter? What if she hid her?" They went back together that evening. Kara wouldn't go alone anymore. Armed with a crowbar, flashlight, and a camera on her phone, she watched as Melanie tapped along the walls of the bedroom closet, listening for hollows. "This one," Melanie whispered. "The back wall." She started prying. The drywall cracked loudly. A thin cloud of dust spilled out. Behind it, darkness and a narrow crawl space, just wide enough for a child, just wide enough to trap someone. Kara's stomach lurched. Melanie aimed her flashlight inside. "There's something there!" She reached in with the flashlight and screamed. Kara pulled her back. Melanie fell on the floor, eyes wide with terror. "It moved," she gasped. "There's something still inside." They called the building supervisor, but he refused to come up. "I don't mess with that unit," he said through the door. "I've had 3 maintenance guys quit after stepping foot in there. One had a seizure. One said he saw someone hanging in the kitchen mirror. That place is wrong. I won't go near it." Kara didn't press him. Instead, she called in an anonymous tip to the police. "There may be remains in the crawl space behind the bedroom closet in apartment 6C. She gave no name, no number, and she didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the hallway outside her apartment smelled like bleach. Kara approached cautiously. Yellow tape had been hung across her door. Someone had entered the unit. She found a note pinned to the hallway corkboard, addressed to resident of Unit 6C. "We investigated the interior crawl space." A sealed compartment was discovered, containing multiple deteriorated personal items, children's clothing, a porcelain doll, several drawings. No human remains were found. Kara stared at the note. "Drawings?" She pushed past the tape and entered the apartment. The doll was gone, but the air still felt heavy. The silence, thicker than ever. On the kitchen table sat an envelope. It hadn't been there before. Inside were the drawings, 7 pages, all in red crayon, all of a girl with black, empty eyes, standing alone in what looked like a small, dark box. In every picture, her mouth was open wide, screaming, Kara dropped the drawings and staggered back. On the final page, in shaky child's handwriting, were the words, "She said I had to stay here forever." That night, Kara finally spoke to the one person she'd been. Avoiding Mrs. Macaulay, the old woman answered her door in a faded robe, eyes wary. "I told you to leave," she said. "That place, it don't want you there." "I need to know the truth," Kara begged. "You knew Sarah Jensen, didn't you?" Mrs. Macaulay hesitated, then opened the door wider. They sat in her living room while the old woman sipped whiskey from a cracked mug. Sarah was sweet, quiet, but something changed her. She lost her baby before she ever moved in. Miscarriage, 7 months along. Girl was never born. Kara blinked. "But the photo," Mrs. Macaulay nodded. "That's what scared us all. The picture. She swore it was real. Carried it with her. Told us her daughter had been born after all, just not like we expected. She said the walls gave her back." Kara felt a chill run through her. "What do you mean the walls gave her back?" "She said she heard crying, from the vents, from the closet, and one night she found the doll sitting on her bed, holding a rattle." Mrs. Macaulay leaned, in voice lowering to a whisper. "She said the doll was keeping her daughter alive." Kara didn't go home that night. She stayed at Melanie's apartment, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound, every creak. Sleep didn't come easy. 3:11 a.m., her phone buzzed, unknown number. No caller ID, she didn't answer, but a voicemail came through. She played it, static, then breathing, then the voice. Small, close. "Mommy?" Kara dropped the phone. The next morning, Kara woke to find a red crayon on her pillow she hadn't brought. One with her. She stared at it for a long time, heart pounding. Was she dreaming? Hallucinating? Melanie didn't think so. "She's reaching out to you," she said. "This girl, if she ever existed, she wants you to know, to see her." Kara swallowed. "Why me?" "I don't know," Melanie said. "But maybe because you didn't turn away. You believed." Kara decided to return to apartment 6C one final time. She packed nothing. Just walked in and sat in the center of the bedroom floor. The closet door was open now. The air was cold. Still. "I know you're here," Kara whispered. "I saw your pictures. I heard your voice." Silence. She opened the drawer of the nightstand. Inside was a single photo, folded and faded. It showed the same girl. But this time, she wasn't alone. Next to her was Sarah Jensen, and behind them, something shadowy, barely visible, a figure, twisted, almost human. Kara turned the photo over. "She keeps me in the walls." Kara stood, heart racing. The walls. She stepped closer to the closet, touched the back. Then the humming began again. Faint. Broken. She pressed her hand against the wall. "Are you there?" A whisper came back. "She doesn't like when I talk." Then slam! The closet door shut behind her. Darkness swallowed everything, and from inside the wall, something moved. Not a girl, not a child. Something older, harsher. "Crawling coming!" "She keeps me in the walls." The closet door slammed shut. Kara was trapped. She pounded on it. "Hello, Melanie!" No response. She turned. The crawl space behind the wall groaned like an exhale. Cold air seeped out from the cracks. She raised her phone using the flashlight. Then, movement. A shape. Thin. Twitching. Kara squinted. At first she thought it was a child crawling, but it wasn't. It was too long, its limbs jointed in the wrong places. Elbows bending backward, fingers gnarled like broken branches, and it was smiling. No eyes. Just torn black skin where they should have been. The mouth was too wide, almost human, but cracked at the edges like porcelain. It began to crawl forward. Kara screamed. She slammed her body against the closet door again and again, until it cracked. "Open just enough," she burst out, falling hard onto the bedroom floor. The air in the room felt warmer now, but it didn't help, because something had followed her, crawling, whispering. "She doesn't like when I talk. She doesn't like when I talk." Kara ran. She didn't look back. Not until she was outside, On the stairwell, chest heaving, when she turned to look up at the bedroom window of 6C, there was someone watching her, a woman, long dark hair, pale face, standing motionless behind the curtain. Sarah Jensen. Melanie picked Kara up an hour later. Neither of them spoke during the drive. Back at Melanie's apartment, Kara sat shaking under a blanket while Melanie made tea. "I saw her," Kara whispered. "She's in there." "Sarah?" Kara nodded. "Or something pretending to be her. And the thing in the walls, that wasn't a child." Melanie sat across from her. "I found something else." She opened her laptop and showed Kara a newspaper clipping scanned from the microfiche archives. "Woman dies in house fire, infant presumed dead. Sarah Jensen, age 27. House fire in rural Maine, 1999. Child's body never recovered. She disappeared after that," Melanie said. "2 years later she shows up here in this building with no baby, but she told everyone she had one." "What if?" Kara said slowly. "She made a deal." Melanie looked up. Kara's eyes were wide, unfocused. "What if she gave something up or asked for something back?" "The daughter," Melanie whispered. "She wanted her back, and something answered." That night, Kara dreamed of a hallway, endless, shifting. At the end, a door, scratched, painted red, a child's handprint smeared across it. She walked toward it, and with every step the whispers grew louder. "She won't let me leave. She made me hurt them. She said I had to earn my voice." Kara reached for the doorknob. It burned her hand. She woke up screaming. Next to her pillow, a piece of paper folded into a square. She hadn't brought any paper to bed. Hands shaking, she opened it. A child's drawing. This time it showed a woman, not the girl, inside a dark space, bound in red string, mouth open in a scream. Above her head, a shadow loomed, sharp teeth, hollow eyes, and across the bottom, scrawled in red crayon, "She is not my mommy." The next morning, Melanie showed Kara a message she'd received through an anonymous email account created just for research tips. There was no subject, no text, just a single image attachment. They opened it together. It was a photograph. From the outside, it showed the fire damage of a burned-down house, the one from Sarah Jensen's newspaper article. But if you zoomed in on the top window, something strange became visible. A child, standing in the upstairs bedroom window, looking down. But her face wasn't fully visible. It was blurred, stretched in a way that felt wrong. Her mouth was wide. Open, it looked like she was screaming. Kara had reached her limit. "I need to end this," she said. "You want to go back in there?" Melanie asked, horrified. Kara nodded. "It's not just about me anymore. That little girl is still there. She's trapped. And I think the thing keeping her isn't even human." Melanie hesitated. "If you go back, you're not going alone." So that night, armed with candles, rope, and an old priest's manual Melanie found from a used bookstore — her mum used to collect occult junk — the two of them returned to apartment 6C. They entered at 2:07 a.m., the hour Sarah had reportedly died. In the fire, they lit candles in a circle on the bedroom floor and placed the doll, the one police had returned to evidence and Kara had requested under pretense of being Sarah's niece, in the center. Kara held the photo of Sarah and the child. "We're here to set her free," she whispered. They began reading aloud the banishing passage. The lights flickered. A scream tore through the apartment, high and childlike but layered, like something was inside the scream. Then the closet. Door creaked open on its own. Kara and Melanie both turned. From inside the dark, something moved. The little girl stepped out. She looked about 8. But her eyes were completely black, empty. Her mouth moved silently, lips forming words. Kara stepped forward, hands raised. "You're safe now," she whispered. "We're here to help you." The girl opened her mouth and another voice came out, not hers, not human. "You are mine." The girl screamed as invisible hands dragged her backward, slamming the closet. Door shut. The candles blew out. The walls trembled. Then silence. When the lights returned, Kara stood frozen. The doll was gone from the circle. The photo had burned to ash, and something had been carved into the wood floor in front of the closet. Not scratched, carved deep and precise. She's not dead. Kara stayed up all night, whispering into the voicemail app on her phone, hoping the girl would answer again. Nothing came until 4:04 a.m. She received a voicemail. She played it. There was crying. Then the child's voice, trembling, broken. "She's still here. She's inside me," she said. "If I leave, you take her place." Then silence, then a second voice, Sarah's voice, speaking softly. "You should never have come looking. She was quiet before. Now, she's hungry again." Kara broke down. She screamed, punched the wall. She couldn't save her. But as she stared at the crack she'd made in the wall, something caught her attention. A shape beneath the drywall, something square. She ripped at it. Inside the wall was a metal lockbox. She pried it open. Inside was a tiny singed journal, pages filled with shaky handwriting. It was Sarah Jensen's diary. Select. Entries: Sarah Jensen's diary, March 4th, 2001. She came to me in the mirror. Said she could give me what was taken. I just had to say yes. I did. March 29th, 2001. The doll watches her while I sleep. She feeds it secrets. I hear them whispering in the vents. May 2nd, 2001. She wants out, but I can't let her. She isn't mine anymore, she's hers. July 9th, 2001. I told the neighbors she didn't exist. I had to. They don't understand what she's becoming. August 13th, 2001. I buried the last girl who came looking. Behind the wall. She tried to take her away. No one takes her. She's not theirs. August 14th, 2001. She said one day a new mother would come, and she'd take my place. Kara read the last line over and over. She said, one day a new mother would come, and she'd take my place. Kara looked into the mirror. She didn't recognize her own eyes. Dark circles, empty, fading, and behind her, in the mirror, a shadow, smiling. I was never meant to leave. The mirror cracked. Kara staggered backward, blood seeping from her nostrils. Melanie rushed into the bathroom. What happened? Kara couldn't speak. She pointed at the glass, but there was no shadow now, no reflection, just her. And yet, it wasn't her. In the mirror, her expression was smiling, but Kara wasn't. Her reflection tilted its head and waved. That night Kara didn't sleep. She couldn't. The girl's voicemail played again and again in her mind. If I leave, you take her place. It wasn't just about haunting anymore. It was possession, transfer, replacement. She flipped through Sarah's burnt journal, desperately hunting for answers. One torn page near the end had only one sentence left readable. The ritual demands inheritance. The doll must choose the next mother. Melanie brought coffee and sat beside her. We need to destroy the doll, Kara said flatly. Melanie didn't disagree. But where is it? She whispered. They returned to 6C one last time. The apartment had changed. The walls pulsed like something was breathing behind them. Dark handprints marked the ceilings now, and the windows were black, not boarded, just wrong, like glass. No longer separated them from whatever was outside. They moved quietly. No words, just searching. Then Kara heard it, from inside the bedroom wall. Laughter, high, giggling, but desperate. Like a child trying to pretend they weren't crying. They followed the sound into the closet and found the crawl space again. This time, Kara went in first. Melanie held the flashlight behind her. As Kara moved through the narrow tunnel, she whispered, softly, I know you're scared, but you don't have to hide anymore. The girl's voice came through the dark. She said you would say that. Kara froze. The air around her dropped 10 degrees in seconds. She turned the flashlight. Ahead, the doll, sitting in a little wooden rocking chair, smiling, and around it, in the walls, bones, small ones, clumps of hair. Doll heads missing there, eyes scratched into the wood all around. Mother, mother, let me out! Be her! Melanie screamed from behind. Kara spun. Something had grabbed her friend, yanked her backward by the ankle into the dark behind them. Melanie! No answer, just whispers. She can't help you now. She's mine. Kara crawled forward, snatched the doll and held it close. You want a mother? I'm here. You don't need to hurt anyone else. The tunnel began to shift. Wood turned into stone. The temperature dropped further, and now Kara wasn't crawling through drywall. She was somewhere. Older basement stone, rotting beams, candles flickered along the sides. She stood in a chamber, and at the far end, an altar, with her mother's face carved into it. No, not her real mother. A woman who looked eerily like her. And beneath that, the word matron. Then she saw her, the girl, standing at the altar. She turned slowly. Now her face was stitched in places, eyes hollow, voice trembling. You came. You said you would. I'm here, Kara whispered. You're not supposed. To save me, the girl said. You're supposed to hold her. What? The girl looked behind Kara. Kara turned. A second figure stood now in the chamber, taller, hair floating upward like it was underwater, eyes stitched shut, teeth showing, too many for one mouth. She wore a tattered black dress and blood-stained. Apron. Sarah, or what Sarah had become. She made the deal, the girl whispered. I was dying. She called to the one behind the walls, gave up her voice for mine. But the gift wasn't me, it was her, that thing. I don't understand, Kara said, shaking. You will. The girl took her hand, and in an instant, Kara remembered, not just Sarah, not just the fires, but herself. Another life, another apartment, crying in a corner, begging not to be left alone. A woman's voice, comforting, stern. If you don't stop screaming, she'll come for you again. A locked door, the mirror cracking, the doll's face smiling. She dropped to her knees. No, that's not me. That's not who I am. The girl stepped back. You've always been here. And from the shadows, Sarah stepped forward. But her face was no longer human. It had split open, revealing a dozen smaller mouths inside, whispering in unison. My time is done. You are next. Welcome home, Mother. The chamber pulsed. The candles blew out, and Kara screamed as hands reached through the stone, pulling her under. She woke up in her bed. Sunlight. Phone buzzing. A missed call from Melanie. It was all just a dream. Right? She sat up. The doll was on her nightstand, its head tilted, smiling. She tried to scream. She couldn't. No sound. She touched her throat. Nothing. She opened her mouth again, and instead of her voice, she heard a child's laughter. Behind her, the mirror reflected something that wasn't her. It was wearing her face, but it smiled differently, and behind that, the girl, still whispering. She gave me my voice. I gave her your life. Mother, are you ready now? The laughter didn't stop. Kara pressed her hands to her ears, her breath ragged, heart battering her ribs like it was trying to escape her body. The doll sat still on the nightstand, its smile unchanged, but everything around her had shifted. Her bedroom wasn't hers anymore. The curtains swayed without wind. The paint peeled like dried skin. The floor creaked in slow rhythms, like breathing. And the mirror, that goddamned mirror, it now showed two Karas, one trembling in the bed, and one standing tall behind her, mouth stretched far too wide in a grin that promised nothing but madness. Kara stumbled to her feet, knocking the doll onto the floor. It giggled. The sound came from inside her head. Her phone buzzed again. Melanie, she answered with shaking hands. "Melanie," Kara rasped. "Please, I don't know what's real anymore." But it wasn't Melanie's voice on the other end. "You left me in the wall." Then silence, then a knock, 3 hard knocks, from her closet. Kara backed away. Her throat ached. Her voice still wouldn't work properly. The mirror flickered. Now it showed the room filled with dolls, some hanging from the ceiling, others sitting in rows along the bed. All watching, she turned her head. The room was empty, but in the reflection they moved and smiled. She tried to throw the mirror down, but her arms froze, as if someone else had taken control. She turned, slowly, toward the closet. 9. Door creaked open. Inside, the girl stood. Her eyes were gone now, just hollow sockets leaking dark tears. "You tried to help," she whispered, "but it was too late. You were always meant to replace her." "I'm not her," Kara screamed. Her voice cracked out suddenly, raw and broken. "You are now. She's done. You're next." Kara ran, out of the room, out the front door, down the stairwell of the apartment building. But the halls had changed again. They were melting. The numbers on each door twisted into symbols, the kind she'd seen carved into the walls of 6C, all of them pulsing, all of them whispering. She reached the lobby. But it wasn't a lobby anymore. It was the basement from the visions, and the altar was there, and Sarah stood behind it, burnt, bleeding, grinning. "You left me in the fire," Sarah said, "but I didn't burn alone. You were with me." "I didn't. I never—" "Liar," Sarah whispered. "You knew. You chose to forget." Suddenly, everything came back. Kara as a child. 6 years old, hiding in the apartment, watching her mother perform the ritual, watching the girl be chosen and saying nothing. The doll was passed to her, Kara, and she did nothing. She held it and she smiled, because the girl had screamed too loud, because Kara was tired of sharing her mother. She'd let it happen. Let Sarah take her. Let the curse pass through bloodlines. Now she remembered it all. She was the reason the cycle had started again. Melanie's voice echoed behind her, but it was distant, muffled, like someone yelling from behind thick glass. "Kara, don't believe it. Kara, wake up." The mirror appeared again, floating in air. In it, Kara was asleep in her bed, Melanie shaking her, calling her name. This wasn't real. The basement, the altar. It was all inside. Inside, the curse, a prison built of memory, guilt, and vengeance. She had to wake up, but Sarah stepped forward, doll in hand. "This is your inheritance," she whispered. "You either hold her, or you become her." Kara backed away. "I won't take it," she whispered. "Then she will." From behind Sarah, the girl stepped out again, but she wasn't a girl anymore. She was Kara, 6 years old. Wearing the same pajamas, holding the same doll, smiling. "I've always been here," the child said. Kara turned. There was nowhere left to run, just fire now. It crept along the floor, along the altar, up Sarah's arms, but she didn't scream. She laughed. Kara dropped to her knees. "I won't hurt anyone," she said. "Not again, not ever." She took the doll from Sarah's hands, held it close, and whispered one word: "Enough." The world ripped open. Light burst from the doll's eyes. Screaming, not from Kara, not from Sarah, but from the walls themselves, deafening howls that cracked the stone. Then silence. Kara opened her eyes. She was in her bed. Sunlight streamed. Melanie sat beside her, tears in her eyes. "You're awake," she whispered. "Oh my God, you were out for hours." Kara sat up slowly. Her hands were trembling, her throat raw. "Where is it?" Melanie frowned. "What?" "The doll." Melanie shook her head. "There was never a doll in here, Kara. You hit your head. You've been out since we got back from that apartment." Kara's heart twisted. She looked at the nightstand, empty, no doll, no whispers, no shadow in the mirror. It was over. Weeks passed. Kara started sleeping again. Not well, but better. Melanie stayed close, checking in daily. Apartment 6C was officially condemned. The building management was tearing it down. I guess some places just don't want to be lived in, Melanie said. Kara smiled weakly, but she didn't feel like smiling. She still heard things at night, still saw glimpses in glass. But she was awake. She'd ended it. She believed that, until the package arrived and no return address, just her name, wrapped in old paper, tied with red thread. Kara opened it slowly. Inside, a doll, burnt, stitched, smiling, a note beneath it. She said you were ready. Now, final line. Kara stared at the doll as it blinked and whispered her name. The end. Story 1, complete. Story 2. The last patient of room 109. The hospital had been closed for 7 years, but the call light in room 109 wouldn't stop blinking. Mira was a janitor now, not by choice. She had a degree in psychology, but after the lawsuit, no clinic in the city would touch her. So she took the night shift at Greystone General, a half-abandoned hospital scheduled for demolition. The first time she saw room 109, she thought nothing of it. Just another locked room in the shut-down psych wing. But then the light started. It was the old call button, the kind patients pressed when they needed help. Mira reported it, but maintenance laughed. Whole floors dead, no power down there. Except it wasn't, because every night at 3:09 a.m. the light in room 109 blinked, and every night it got brighter. One night, Mira took her flashlight and went up. The elevator refused to open past the 3rd floor, so she climbed the stairwell, each step feeling heavier than the last. When she reached the psych ward doors, she hesitated. They were slightly open. She didn't remember leaving them that way. The hallway beyond was freezing. Her breath fogged in front of her. All the doors were shut, except 109. It was wide open, and inside someone was sitting on the bed. "Hello?" Mira said. The figure didn't move. She stepped closer. A man sat on the edge of the mattress. Back. To her, in a hospital gown soaked through at the back. His spine was wrong, bent like he'd been broken and never healed. His head twitched once, then turned too far to face her. "It still hurts," he rasped. "I was awake when they cut it out." Mira backed up, flashlight trembling. "There's no one supposed to be here," she said. "Then why do they scream?" he whispered. "Every night. Can't you hear them?" He raised his arm, revealing a missing hand, just gauze and bone where fingers should be. Mira turned to run, but the door had closed, and someone was behind her now, breathing against her ear. "You're early. We're not done yet." She woke up on the break room couch, soaked in sweat. Her keys were missing. She checked the security footage. 9 a.m. Room 109's light flashed, and Mira was seen walking in, but never coming out. The security guard found her later, curled in the psych ward hallway. She was whispering over and over, "He's still in there. I saw what they did. He remembers everything." They fired her the next day. The next night, the light blinked again. Final line, room 109 remains. Sealed now, but sometimes janitors hear someone calling for help, and a bloody handprint forms on the inside of the glass. Story 2. Complete. The end story. 3. She left the baby monitor on after the funeral. At 2:17 a.m., the baby monitor crackled, and Emily heard her daughter laughing. But her daughter had been buried 3 days ago. Emily hadn't turned off the monitor, not because she believed in ghosts, but because it was all she had left of Lily. The soft coos, the baby gurgles, that tiny hiccup laugh she made when dreaming. It made the silence in the house feel a little less like death. Her husband, Dean, wanted it gone. "It's not healthy," he said. "It's been 3 days." But Emily wasn't ready, so on the 3rd night after the funeral, she lay in bed, clutching Lily's blanket, while the monitor, still plugged into the wall across the room, stayed silent. Until 2:17 a.m., cock static flared, sharp and sudden. Then The laugh, Lily's laugh. Emily sat up, frozen. The sound came again, clearer now. Mama! She ran to the monitor, breath tight in her chest. Lily? She whispered, not even questioning how that made sense. The voice giggled, something shuffled. She turned on the hallway lights. The nursery door was open. She was sure she'd closed it. Dean wasn't in bed. She moved down the hall, barefoot and shaking. The nursery was dark except for the soft glow of the nightlight, the one shaped like a bunny. The crib was empty, but the baby monitor on the dresser was blinking. It blinked once, twice, then a voice crackled through. You left me alone in the dirt. Emily's stomach twisted. She unplugged the monitor. It didn't stop. You said it would be quick. It was cold. It hurts. Then came the cry. Not a baby's, something older, rougher, angry. The closet door creaked open. Dean screamed from the bedroom. Emily rushed back to find the covers torn, claw marks across the wall and blood trailing. Out toward the hallway. A tiny footprint, mud-covered, sat in the center of the bed. She found Dean in the basement, unconscious, scratched down the chest, whispering Lily's name. The police said it was a psychotic break. Maybe shared grief, maybe a breakdown. They didn't question the baby monitor's new recording, though, because it didn't stop after unplugging. It kept playing, and when a technician opened it, he found dirt packed inside and a voice looping. Over and over, you left me. Now I leave the door open. Final line. The monitor sits in a sealed evidence locker now, but at 2:17 every night, it turns itself on. Story 3, complete. The end story. 4. The caretaker left a note before vanishing. The old man who took care of the cemetery never missed a day, until they found his shack open, the stove still burning, and a note pinned to the door with a knife. Don't dig up grave 39. Everyone in the town knew Walter Griggs, the cemetery keeper. He wasn't friendly, but he was consistent. Rain, snow, storm. Walter showed up at 5 a.m., unlocked the gates, swept the chapel steps, and talked to the graves like they were old friends. Then, one Sunday, he disappeared. The stove in his tiny gravekeeper's shack was still warm when the police arrived. No signs of a struggle, no theft. Just that note written in shaky, almost childlike letters. Don't dig up grave 39. Not again. Emily Jennings, the new interim caretaker, laughed it off. Old man probably lost it, might have wandered into the woods. She didn't believe in haunted graves or death curses. What scared her were people, not the dead. But on her first night shift, she saw it. Grave 39, fresh flowers laid across it, soil recently disturbed, but no one had visited that grave in over 40 years. She checked the registry. Victor Blaine, died in 1974, age 26. No cause of death listed, no family on file, no photo, just a stamped note on the bottom of the entry. Sealed. By municipal order, do not exhume, under any circumstances. Weird, she thought, but people forge rules all the time. That night, her dog wouldn't go near that section of the cemetery, just stood near the shack, growling low. At 2:12 a.m., the motion sensor lights flickered. Emily stepped outside and saw someone standing over grave 39, a man in a wet, torn black suit. His face pale, as if made of wax. His hands hung limp at his sides. Excuse me, she called out. He didn't move. She grabbed her flashlight and crossed the grass, but when the beam touched the figure, he vanished. Just a smell remained. Damp soil, and something foul, like open meat left too long in the sun. That morning she dug. She had to know what was in grave 39. 6 feet down, the soil turned thick and oily, and then she hit something. Not a coffin, a wooden box, nailed shut, covered in strange carvings. Inside, under rotting linen, was a body, eyes wide open, skin perfectly preserved, as if he'd just died an hour ago. He smiled and opened his eyes. Emily screamed, scrambling out of the grave. The box began to shake, as if something inside was trying to crawl upward. She shoved the dirt back, barely able to breathe, and ran. The next day, grave 39 looked untouched again, as if nothing had ever happened. But that night, she found a note pinned to her shack door, written in Walter's handwriting. "You dug him up, now you take my place." She turned, and in the window Victor's face stared back at her. Final line. No one has seen Emily Jennings since last week, but every morning at 5 a.m. the cemetery gate opens, the chapel steps are swept, and grave 39 always has fresh flowers. Story 4. Complete. The end story. 5. My brother's room was empty. Then his phone rang. Liam died in a hit-and-run last winter. His room has been locked ever since, but last night his phone lit up and started ringing from inside. Jenna hadn't gone into Liam's room since the funeral. Her parents had sealed it like a shrine. His shoes still under the bed, his jacket still on the chair, his phone on the nightstand. Dead since the day of the accident. Until last night, she was walking past the hallway when she heard the vibration. A soft buzz-buzz, like a phone left on silent mode. She stopped. It was coming from Liam's room. She knocked. Of course, no one answered. The door creaked open a few inches, and on the nightstand, Liam's phone screen lit up. Incoming call. Unknown. Number? She stared, frozen. The call ended. A second later, a text popped up. "Cold, so cold. Let me in." She ran to her parents. They thought she was dreaming. They even showed her the key, still locked away in her dad's drawer. But when they opened the door together, the phone was on the floor. A smear of wet mud led from the windowsill to the carpet, and Liam's hoodie was missing. The next night, Jenna stayed up. She left the room unlocked. 4:41 a.m. The phone lit up again. This time a voice message. Hands shaking, she pressed play. It was Liam's voice, croaking, wet. It wasn't instant. I saw the driver's face. He watched me die. And he smiled. He buried me, but I didn't stay. The lights flickered. Her phone went dark. She looked toward Liam's bedroom. The door was open, and muddy footprints led down the stairs. She followed them to the garage. The driver who killed Liam had never been caught, but her dad always acted strange when the subject came up. Defensive. Silent. In the garage, she found his phone on the workbench, unlocked. A single photo in the hidden folder, a dashcam screenshot, Liam's body, a cracked windshield, and her dad's face in the driver's seat, blood-splattered, smiling. The phone in her pocket buzzed. Again, another message from Liam. "Thank you for opening the door. I'm home now." She turned and saw her father slumped in the hallway, throat torn open. Final line. Jenna moved out of the house after that night. But sometimes at 2:41 a.m., her phone still buzzes with Liam's name, even though she buried his phone with him. Story 5, complete. The end story. 6. The therapist said, "Write letters to the dead." One wrote back. The grief counselor told Mark to write a goodbye letter to his wife. He burned it, like she said. The next night, a new letter appeared in the ashes. It wasn't his handwriting. After the crash, Mark stopped talking to people. He stopped working, stopped sleeping. All he did was sit in the empty living room watching the home videos of Claire on repeat, laughing, dancing, alive. The therapist was a last resort. She was strange. Kind-eyed, but off. Her office had no photos, no degrees, just a fireproof bowl on the table and shelves full of burnt paper sealed in jars. "Write her a letter," she said. "Be honest. Say goodbye. Then burn it in here." Mark didn't ask questions. He wrote, "I can't let go. I see you everywhere. I miss the way you'd hum in the kitchen, the way your fingers tapped your wine glass when you were bored. I hate you for dying." He signed it. He burned it. The therapist smiled and whispered, "Good." That night, Mark woke at 3:07 a.m. There was ash on his bedsheet, and sitting atop it, a folded, crumpled piece of paper. He opened it. "You never listened when I asked you to fix the brakes. You were always too busy. Now you're alone. I'm cold, Mark. Burn another one." It was signed Claire. He told himself it was a prank, sleepwalking, grief, hallucination. Still, he wrote another letter, this time angrier. You blame me. You're the one who wanted to take the back road. You screamed at me that night. You weren't wearing your seatbelt. He burned it again. That night. Another letter. The handwriting was shakier now. You still don't remember, do you? You took the wheel. You wanted to crash. Memories started returning, flashes, the fight before the accident, his hand yanking the wheel, her scream, and then silence. He wrote one final letter. I didn't mean to. I was angry. I wanted to scare you. I didn't think we'd actually... He couldn't finish. He burned it. But this time the letter that came back was wet, smelled of lake water, and had a piece of Claire's wedding ring embedded in the ash. You did this, so now I'll never leave. The next morning, he went to the therapist's office. It was empty, long abandoned, and in the fireplace bowl sat hundreds of burnt letters, all written in different hands, all saying, she won't stop writing back. Final line, Mark stopped writing. But she didn't. Now every morning he wakes up to new letters, each one colder, angrier, soaked in mud. The last one just said, get in the car. Story 6. Complete. The end. Story 7. My family died in that house. Last week, I got the keys. They said it was a gas leak, a tragic accident. My parents and sister, all dead in the fire. But last week, 11 years later, I got a letter from a lawyer. The house has been rebuilt, and it's yours now. I hadn't thought about that. House in over a decade. I was 12 when it happened. My mom, dad, and little sister Lily, all gone overnight. They said I was lucky not to be there. I'd been at a school camp, arguing with my dad over the phone the night before. The last words I ever said to him were, I hope I never come back. And then I didn't. Until the letter came. It was from a lawyer in Massachusetts. Said the house had been rebuilt on the original foundation. Said it had been left to me in a trust, finally being released when I turned 23. This property is now legally yours. You may inspect it at your earliest convenience. It is fully furnished and sealed. No known occupants since restoration. There was a key attached and a note, not typed, handwritten in messy, childlike scrawl. Don't sleep in the pink room. I didn't recognize the handwriting, but something about it made my stomach twist. Lily's room had been pink. I still remember the walls covered in stickers and glow-in-the-dark stars. How she used to make me check under her bed every night. She was 5. Afraid of the creaking. Man, she said. Some shadow she saw in the corners when it got dark. Back then I thought it was her imagination. Now, I wasn't so sure. The Uber driver wouldn't go up the driveway. Said his GPS kept glitching when he got close. I had to walk the last quarter mile. That was the first red flag. The second was the house. It wasn't new like the letter promised. Looked identical to the house that burned down. Right down to the rusted swing set in the backyard, the same one where Lily broke her arm. I ran my hand across the porch rail, splintered, familiar. This wasn't rebuilt, this was the same damn house. Inside, everything was exactly as it had been the night of the fire. Mom's favorite vase, Dad's chair with the torn leather, Lily's tricycle in the hallway, but covered in dust, like no one had entered in years. A smell hung in the air, not just musty. Something burned underneath it, charred wood and ash that shouldn't still be there. And then I saw the stairs. At the top, the pink door to Lily's room was cracked open just a little. I swore I wouldn't go up there. Not yet. Instead, I explored the downstairs, half expecting a jump scare, but it was eerily still. Cold, even though the thermostat said 72. That night, I decided to sleep on the couch in the living room. At 3:11 a.m., I woke to a sound, a soft thump, 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 footsteps, light ones. Above me, in Lily's room, I didn't move, didn't breathe, and then I heard it, a little girl's voice, just a whisper. Why didn't you come back? My blood turned to ice. I sat up slowly. The pink door upstairs creaked. Once, then, silence. I was done. I packed my bag, grabbed the keys. The front door was jammed, wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break. My phone had no service, and the date had changed. It said, October 3rd, 2012, the night my family died, and then I heard the creaking again. Coming. Down the stairs, deliberate, slow, heavy. Not Lily's footsteps. Something else. Something that never left the house. Final line. Cliffhanger. I turned toward the sound, and saw the shadow of something tall and twisted dragging long fingers across. The wall! The creaking man. Lily wasn't imagining him, and now he was coming for me. The shadow on the wall was impossible. Long arms, longer fingers. It moved like its joints were bending the wrong way, creaking with every step, just like Lily used. To describe when she was terrified under the covers, I wanted to run, but my legs were locked. I backed into the corner of the living room, too scared to scream, too stunned to blink. The thing stopped at the bottom of the stairs. It turned toward me, but there was no face, just darkness where its head should be, and faint outlines like teeth stitched across the void. Then it spoke, not aloud. In my head. You left her. You stayed gone. I shut my eyes, gritted my teeth, and when I opened them, it was gone. The room was empty, no footprints, no broken floorboards, no trace of it. Only the pink door upstairs was now wide open. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10. Then I did the one thing I swore I wouldn't. I walked up the stairs. Lily's room hadn't aged a day. Pink walls, stickers, crayons on the desk, her favorite bunny plush still tucked under the blanket, and a piece of paper on the bed, old, yellowed, burnt around the edges. It was a child's drawing. Crayon. 4 stick figures. Mom, Dad, me, and Lily, but I wasn't smiling in the drawing. The others were. And hovering above us, drawn in black, was a tall figure with no face and long twisted arms stretching down toward Lily. She'd drawn him. Before she died. The creaking man. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw the mirror. It wasn't there when we were kids. It stood against the wall, full length, old, framed in carved black wood. And the reflection didn't match the room. The bed in the reflection was burnt, blackened, and ash-covered. And in the mirror, Lily was standing there, holding her bunny, crying, mouthing something. You left me here. I stepped back. My heel hit the desk. Dewormed. Mirror cracked down the middle. Not shattered, just one long break, like a wound. And then, a knock from the closet behind me. 3 slow knocks. I opened the door. Inside, nothing but her clothes, but hanging from the ceiling was a noose made of braided hair ties. Lily's. Her bunny plush was now on the floor, and a tag had been sewn onto it, written in red thread, "She's not yours to save anymore." I ran, back down the stairs, back to the front door. It was still stuck, dead-bolted. I grabbed a fire iron from the hearth and started smashing a window. Nothing, not even a crack. I collapsed on the floor, panting, and then I saw my phone buzz. No service, no internet, but one notification. Unread voicemail from Dad. I played it static for 5 seconds, then a voice. Not my father's, the creaking man. You were supposed to burn too, but you ran away. Now we're a family. Incomplete. Come upstairs. I dropped the phone, tried again to open the door, still jammed, but this time the fire iron I dropped, it was gone, and the house had grown colder, the lights dimmer. Then upstairs I heard the sound again, tiny footsteps, Lily, running from something. Then a crash, a scream. He's in the walls, I yelled up. Lily! No answer, just scratching, like fingernails clawing the inside of drywall, and a whisper right next to my ear, even though I was alone. You're back now. That's all he needed. The secret in the walls. The pink room door slammed shut, and Lily screamed my name. He's feeding again. The sound cut off like a string snapped, then silence. Heavy. Hungry. I ran upstairs, heart thudding like I was 12 again, terrified after a nightmare. I reached the door. Locked. No matter how hard I kicked, it wouldn't budge. I pressed my ear to the wood, scratching from inside the walls. Then, a voice I hadn't heard in 11 years, my mother. "He'll eat you too if you stay." I stumbled back. How could her voice be in this house? She died here. Burned. The fire department said they found the bodies in the hallway. But now, what if the fire didn't kill them? What if the house did? The creaking floor. The faceless shadow. The thing Lily called the creaking man. I looked around the hallway. Dust. Wallpaper curling. And a picture on the wall I'd never seen before. It wasn't a family photo. It was a charcoal drawing. A figure sitting in a rocking chair, surrounded by children with blank faces. There were names scratched beneath each one. Caleb, Grace, Thomas, Lily, and underneath it all, written in shaky ink, "He needs the forgotten ones." I ran to the attic stairs. They weren't there when I was a kid, but now a pull-down ladder hung from the ceiling. I grabbed it, climbed up. Each step creaked. At the top, pitch black, cold, damp. The smell of burnt wood stronger here. I used my phone light. What I saw made my throat close. The attic was lined with toys, old, dusty, melted in places, but all of them were familiar. My toys, Lily's dolls. Even the bunny was up here again, though I knew I'd left it downstairs, and on the far wall, something drawn in red chalk. Not paint, blood, a large symbol. A spiral of teeth and hands, the same shape Lily used to draw when she was scared. Next to it, names, mine, Lily's, Mom's, Dad's, all crossed out, except mine, and beneath them, a phrase. The survivor must return to feed him. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned fast, no one there, but a journal had appeared on the floor. Old, leather-bound, belonged to my father. I flipped through it, page after page of normal writing, until the final entries. The dreams started after Lily turned 5. She says someone whispers to her at night, a man in the walls. We heard him too, the creaking, the dragging. But the priest said it was just the house settling. Now the cat is dead. And Lily's drawings. She says he told her he was hungry and that I would feed him. I'm sorry, Ben. I didn't want you to come back. I had to keep you away. The fire wasn't an accident. I dropped the journal. The attic floor groaned, and then the spiral symbol on the wall started bleeding. Thick, black-red ooze dripping to the floor. A voice, deep and ancient, spoke from all around me. You are the key you left. Now you unlock the feast. I scrambled back down the ladder. Smoke filled the hallway, but no fire, just the smell of burning and a heartbeat. Not mine, a heartbeat coming from the walls. I ran back to the pink room. The door opened easily now. Inside, pitch black. But on the bed sat Lily's bunny again. This time its eyes were missing, and stitched across its chest was a new message. One must stay. One must feed. One must burn. I turned to run, but behind me stood Lily, or just something wearing her shape. She was pale, eyes sunken, and her voice was hollow. He's almost full, but not yet. He wants the truth. Tell him, Ben. I shook my head. Lily, what are you talking about? She stepped forward. Blood dripped from her feet. Tell him what you did. Tell him why you weren't home that night. My throat tightened. I'd never told anyone. Not the cops. Not the therapist. That I'd lied to get out of the house. That I'd pretended to be sick of them. That I wanted to be gone when it all ended, because I'd seen the creaking man too, and I was too scared to protect my sister. I whispered. I knew. I knew he was real. And I ran. The house exhaled, every wall groaning. Lily smiled and crumbled into ash. Then silence again, except for one sound. Creak, creak. The sound of a rocking chair coming from inside the walls, the ones who stay behind. The cellar door was never supposed to open. Our family used it as storage. Or that's what Dad said. But I pressed my hand against the wood, and it opened on its own. The darkness below smelled like mold, rust, and something else. Old fire. Like scorched wood, trapped grief, and burnt skin. I should have turned back. Instead, I descended. Each step was cold metal groaning under my weight. The creaking matched the rocking sound I'd heard above. Perfect rhythm. Forward, back. At the bottom, nothing. Pitch black. Then my phone screen flickered on. By itself. A video started playing. It was security footage. Dated exactly 11 years ago. From the living room, I watched, breath caught, as Dad dragged Lily, screaming, into frame. He was crying, holding a Bible, shouting something I couldn't hear. Behind him, Mom, holding a box of matches and a can of gas. He needs fire to sleep, she whispered. He wants her, not us. They tied Lily to a chair, poured gas around her, lit a match. Then the video glitched, and when it resumed, all three of them were already on fire. But they weren't. Screaming, they were chanting. Behind them in the smoke stood a tall figure, the creaking man, watching, waiting, feeding. The video ended, and in front of me in the real cellar sat a single rocking chair, old, black, still moving, empty. But the voice came again. Tell me the truth. I stepped forward. My voice shook. You fed on them, my family. You made them kill her. The rocking chair stopped. No, they fed me, to keep you safe. The walls shifted, one opened like a mouth. Inside, a second room, covered in scratches, like someone had tried to claw their way out. And in the center, Lily's bones, small, curled, still in her pajamas, still. Tied to the chair, I fell to my knees. I'd never cried that hard in my life. She hadn't died in the hallway. She died down here, alone, and they lied. Buried the truth, framed it as an accident, but I knew. I felt something watching me all those years. Every night I pretended I was okay. The guilt never left, and now I knew why. The creaking man stepped out of the wall. His body was made of burnt wood and bone. His fingers were nails. His face just that wide black void with too many teeth. You were supposed to stay. You were marked. They offered her in your place. I stared at him. Then take me now. He creaked his head to the side. You came back. You unlocked the house. That's enough. Suddenly, the flames reignited around the cellar, on the walls, and from the bones. But they didn't burn me. They burned him. The creaking man screamed, not like a human, not like a ghost, but like a house groaning as it collapses. As he burned, so did the room, and I saw my mother again, just her silhouette. In the fire, thank you, she whispered. You told the truth. I woke up outside. The house behind me was gone. No ashes, no debris, just an empty field where it used to stand. The police couldn't explain it, said there was never a house at that address. But I had the key still in my hand, and under my nails. Ash. I walked away, never turned back. But last night, got a text from a number with no ID. It was a picture, Lily's drawing, the one with the four of us and the creaking man overhead, except now all the faces were gone. Just one line underneath. You told the truth, but some doors don't stay. Locked. End of story. 7 the end.